Time to learn about sexual orientation and romantic orientation. Hello all you rainbow royalty, welcome to technically now my first informative video on this channel. I hope you all are doing very well, and today we're going to be learning about sexual orientation and romantic orientation. And this is going to be a long series because there are so many different types that it's not all going to fit into one video, so I'm going to be going over the basics that probably a lot of you know about in this video. Let's define sexual orientation, which is basically the group of people that one is sexually attracted to, and for romantic orientation is a group of people that somebody is romantically attracted to. So let's start off with one that we probably know the best, heterosexual. And also, I just want to mention that the sexual and romantic orientations, they can just be replaced. So heterosexual can also be heteroromantic, bisexual, biromantic, etc. They can just be used interchangeably between the two. But in this video, I'll be referring to it as sexuality. Heterosexual, it is when somebody of one gender likes a person of the other gender. Pretty simple, straightforward. Next one, gay. Homosexuality is also how it's known, but it's when, specifically for gay, when a guy likes another guy. And sometimes girls also use this if they feel more comfortable using that term, and that is completely okay. When it comes to things like sexual and romantic orientation, it is one, very fluid, and two, the labels can mean a lot to people, and it can mean different things to every other person that uses them. So there's not really a set in stone definition for them. It really just comes down to the interpretation of the person that uses that label. Second, lesbian. A girl likes a girl. Pretty simple, ones that you probably know the best. Moving on to a bisexual, which is where somebody likes two or more genders. So a lot of times people say that bisexual is where you only like two genders, and that can definitely be the case for some people. I personally call myself biromantic, but I am not limited to two genders. I would date any other person. I don't care if they're non-binary or anything like that. I would date them. So that's why the definition says two or more genders, because it can be more than that. So next up we have pansexual, which is where somebody likes all people regardless of gender. So there's a difference between bi and pan, and again it just comes down to the interpretation of the person using the labels. Then there is omnisexual, which is very similar to pansexual, where people like all genders, but with omnisexual, gender can play a role in who they date, whereas with pansexual they don't care at all, they're just blind to that. Again, this is up to interpretation. People that identify as omnisexual may just not care at all, which is totally fine. Next one, which is what I identify myself as, which is asexual, which means one person is not attracted to anybody in that way. I also want to say here that this can be compressed into ace, and then if you're aromantic, a lot of times people call it aro. It's just a simpler way of saying it. Next one is greysexual, which basically means it is on the asexual spectrum, but people have minimal sexual feelings or romantic feelings for others. Another one on the asexual spectrum is demisexual, which means that somebody is only attracted to somebody in that way if they have a really strong bond with the other person. Now we're going to be getting into some that are probably not as common, that you may not know as much about. So next one is polysexual. So for this one, it is where somebody is attracted to multiple but not all genders. So that can be kind of confusing. It's very confusing when you try to compare that with like pansexual, omni, bi. They are definitely similar, but they have their own small differences that to a lot of people mean a ton. We respect what the differences are and the interpretations of the people that identify themselves as such. So queer is more of a broad term for sexual orientation. It's basically somebody that does not identify themselves as heterosexual. For each person, queer can mean a completely different thing, so it's a really broad term. Next one is abrosexual, which refers back to what I was talking about before with sexual orientation being fluid. Basically, it just means that somebody's sexual orientation or romantic orientation is extremely fluid. So one day they can feel like they're heterosexual, next day homosexual. For them, it changes often. Next one is questioning, which is basically the term somebody uses if they're questioning their sexual orientation and trying to figure out what it is. And another thing that fits along in that category would be bicurious, when somebody is exploring the idea of being bisexual or biromantic. Another one that can be very different for a lot of people is skoliosexual. So this one is basically an attraction to somebody that is non-binary or trans or a different gender or no gender at all, but it is very different for a lot of people. Some define it as only attraction to non-binary people. Some people just say people that are not cisgender, which if you don't know that term, don't worry, I'm also going to be doing a video on gender identity. Again, it's up to the interpretation of the people that label themselves as this. So now we have androsexual, which is where somebody is attracted to masculinity. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're attracted to just guys. They're attracted to masculinity in itself. So it can be people of various genders or no gender at all that they're attracted to. So next one is gynosexual. I've heard two different pronunciations of it, so I'm not exactly sure which one is right. But basically, this one is the opposite of the previous one, where it is attraction to femininity. It's attraction to femininity. Again, it doesn't matter on gender. And the last one I'm going to be talking about is sapiosexual, where somebody is attracted to the intelligence of another person, or just like the human mind itself. So that is all I have for you guys today. This is only part 1. I'm definitely going to do another part or another part after that in the future, because this only covered some of the identities. There's a ton more, so if you didn't hear the one that you wanted to hear in this video, don't worry, in the future I'll have another one up for all those other terms and even more in the future. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe. Give me video ideas, questions that you have about sexual orientation, romantic orientation, gender identity, etc. And I'll see you guys in the next video. So, bye-bye.